Hello, everybody. Happy May 1st. Happy 1st of May. Happy Beltane week, that sacred union of masculine, feminine energy. The young lovers, the young lover energy. What a beautiful, beautiful time to be in. Middle of the eclipse portal. A very interesting set of eclipses, right? We had the hybrid one the other week. We've got this, is it a Scorpio eclipse coming up? A very powerful one. And in today's video, in this consciousness, mass consciousness, collective consciousness video, I'm going to be answering a question that came through. And I love it when you guys send questions. So if you have questions that you'd like answering, if it's something that I'm guided to do a video on, then absolutely I will do so. Thank you to the beautiful soul who asked for the topic of today. Now, this is a really deep one. It's a big one. It's a powerful one. So I'm just going to say now, there may be some, it may be worthwhile offering a trigger warning to everyone. Before we get into it, I just want to say I invite you all to look at the events that I'm running with Jackie White on the 16th of May. That's a Starseed origin one. We're going to be traversing the stars and connecting with lots of different star constellations to receive their beautiful magic. And on the 30th of May, with the wonderful Tim Wilde, we're co-hosting the Ascension Secrets of the Seven Sacred Sons. So we're going to be receiving very powerful attunements from the Seven Sons supporting us, and we're going to be meeting the founders of this universe. So they are both powerful events. And right in between that, on May 23rd, the wonderful Carrie and Trish of Ascension Airwaves are going to be sharing the interview that I had the honor of doing with them the other week, and it's going live on the 23rd of May. So you can find those links in the YouTube description box or in the bio at the top if you're watching this on Instagram. But for now, let's get to this question. It was a really powerful one. So thank you to the love who sent this in. So this is the question, how it was worded. I might paraphrase it just a little. I'm wondering if you have a video on this or if you feel guided to do one. But what is this human physical experience on Earth? What is it really? It's a big topic, I know. But I'm seeing more and more information pointing to the fact that life may just be a big illusion, and that we as humans are simply pure awareness. So I'm curious to know how that fits into the whole ascension framework and the fact that we're here to make a difference. For example, 3D, 5D, etc. So thank you. What a brilliant question. And we're going to go right into it. This may bring some trigger moments though. So just allow yourselves to breathe into your hearts. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on that question. But what my team of light and our star friends are guiding us to share, or where to start, is first, let us look at energy. We are all energy. Everything is energy. There is no exemption to that rule. Everything is energy. There are universal laws which govern that energy. Universal maxims of law, such as within, so without. So many of us say that phrase, as within, so without, yet we don't really fully understand what we're saying. Because I feel like if we did, we'd recognize that everything outside of us is present first within us. I take that very tangibly. The whole universe is within us. Because before anything is an expression, a translatable expression, it is vibration. If you followed me for a while, we talk about vibration a lot, because vibration is the undercurrent of everything. If we speak something, that is our brain interpreting the vibration, the frequency of vibration. If we are moving our body, once again, that's biochemical reactions happening within our body. That's electricity. Every cell within our body is electricity. I think it was Keanu Reeves who said that, the movies The Matrix were a documentary to him. They weren't sci-fi, they were documentary. Science is constantly proving source energy over and over again, whether they realize it or not. And what I love about Keanu saying that The Matrix was a documentary is that if you look at the end of the first film, the way that Neo sees everything at the very end, it's all just code. It's not dissimilar to what this world is. It's code, it's vibration. As humans, we can get a little bit stuck in our head about that, though. We start to get a little bit worried about that and fearful about that. There's really no need, though, because another way of phrasing vibration or coding is love. We are living love. And why this is important to start with is because if we can recognize that everything is simply vibration, it's simply a flow of energy in one way or another way. We look at things like the law of attraction. Lots of people talk about that, but do we really understand the vibrational nature of it? The principle of gender, masculine energy, feminine energy, divine masculine, divine feminine. Do we really understand what that is? It is simply a current of energy expressing itself, right? So if everything is energy, then we can say that in our existence, and the Arcturians, like if you follow the channelings that I bring through from the Arcturians, they speak about this. This is how they speak about density. So do have a look in the star channeling playlist, because I think it was October, November that they started speaking about density. And they say that density is the speed of light embodied. So the speed of light, another way of phrasing that is the speed of vibration, speed of energy. Now, if you see a fan on a wall or on the ceiling or whatever, a fan, when you turn it on and it goes slowly around, it might be going on the first speed. It's going slowly. It's putting out a nice breeze. You can still kind of see the blades moving, but you can speed it up. When you speed it up, it's vibrating so quickly that you can barely see the blades of the fan moving. That's essentially how energy works here. We can see one another because we've slowed down the vibration, and we'll talk on a different video maybe as to how that happens, but our vibration is slowed down so much that we are physical, we are tangible, we are visible, audible, all these things. We have pulled together all this energy and we've slowed it down enough to be physical. There's a pen right here. You can physically see it. It makes a sound when you drop it. But that's just energy. That's just a bunch of protons and electrons and atoms. That's all that is. In the air around us, we think of it as empty, and it's not. It's actually really full. It's full of everything, just in a very basic light form. Like the elements on the periodic table of elements, they've got different numbers and different weights, right? It's a very simple way of looking at it, but that's also a way of, in science, they say, okay, well, it's got more electrons or more whatever, And it's really interesting because that somewhat relates to the physicality on Earth. We've just attracted and collected a load of like protons and electrons, compounds, but all of that exists in the air around us. This is how breatharians have learned to sustain themselves healthily and nourish themselves, because they've allowed their body to remember that they are more than just a shell which needs to eat food. All of that is available in the air. You can cultivate that with your own chi, your own prana. Now, we start by saying this because let's look at what the human needs as well, because it's a very deep topic to go into. The very basis of this reality, it is holographic. You've heard people say that. You maybe read books or, listen to other people share that as well. It is holographic in nature. Because when we start to understand the vibrational energy enough, and I'm just going to add something in here, what binds thought like when they say mind over matter, when you can control and discipline the mind, you can start to alter matter, because everything is mental, right? Everything is thought created. But there are different layers of thoughts. We look at this in the spiritual community. A lot of people look at this as the higher self, the soul, the monad. There are different frequencies, different speeds of light embodied, different densities. Now, every level of density has a physical and a non-physical counterpart, because first it is mind before it becomes matter. When we start to really understand, and the word understand is a little bit confusing, because we think that means with the mind, can we comprehend something? But that's not really what it means when we're talking about it in this sense. Understanding something means, does your body, does it know it? Does every cell of your body, every atom of your body, does it know something? Does it know, can it receive the truest of truth? Can it receive that? Can it be the receptacle that we are? Can it receive it from source energy? Because that's who you are. That's who I am. We're source energy, but we don't attune that way a lot of the times. We spoke about that last week. We don't really attune ourselves to that source energy enough for our whole body to really know that. But what does get really interesting is, if the whole world is holographic, then a lot of those questions, a lot of those debates, is the earth round or flat? You know, a lot of people get very worked up about that. Emotion is emotion is the energy that binds thought together. Emotion is the energy that tells us whether our higher self voice, which is moving through us, wanting to help the lower self, the conscious mind, whether those two voices are harmonious in nature. And if they're not, if they both have a difference of opinion, the higher self is super high frequency, super high vibration. It's not going to drop down to meet the energy of the lower self, of the ego or conscious mind. It's up to the ego or conscious mind to surrender enough to get up to that level again, to make it harmonious. And that's where the high emotions come in: the joy, the bliss, the beauty, the peace. But when we don't have that, when we don't feel that, when we feel boredom, frustration, lower emotions, and those lower emotions could just be settling, right? We just settle for something. That's still a lowish vibration emotion. What that tells us is that there's still this gap between the two schools of thought within us. Now, if mind creates matter, we need our mind to harmonize for that, to make the creation instantaneous, like noticeable, physically there. So when you've heard of walking masters like Mary Magdalene, for example, who turned the egg blood red in front of Caesar, she knew, she understood her whole body, understood the principles of this universe, and she'd mastered that. And her mind was disciplined enough to create the matter that needed to be created in that moment. That's how the kinesises work: telekinesis, aerokinesis, hydrokinesis, teleportation, levitation. It's a bending and a shifting through the discipline of your mind and the highness, the high frequency of vibration, in order to alter the dimensional state of the thing in front of you, or the thing of your focus. And it can shift like that. But the second part of this question is really interesting, and this is where it may trigger some. And that's a good thing. Whenever we get triggered, it's a good thing, because that's actually our ego saying, oh, it's time for that to come home to love. It's time for us to see a different way about that, and just find peace. See it in a different way, but not get emotional about it. We get emotional about it when we feel threatened, right? When our ego feels threatened. But to grow the soul, we have to dissolve the ego. So those trigger moments are really good. But the question continues. I'm just curious how that fits into the whole ascension framework, and that we're here to make a difference. Well, who believes that? Do you believe that? And it's okay. Like, it's not like who believes that? It's what do you want to believe? Because your thoughts are creating the reality here, right? So The biggest impact that you can make on the world, it's our nature to want to impact the world. It's our nature, it's human nature to want to do that because we feel separate from source. We feel separate from source because we're in this low vibrating body, right? So the biggest difference that we can make is in recognizing that the whole world is formed based on our vibration. That's why the past is only the past as we know it right now, because of our collective vibration, which starts with individual vibration. Because the outer collective energy, the collective energy as we know it outside of ourselves, is a mirror to our inner collective energy, all of the egos that we have. And that's the way shadow work operates. It has to mirror outwards, it has to be shown back to us. Because we can't see it ourselves, it's blind, we're blind to it. Our ego is blind to it because the lower consciousness, our conscious self, is only a few percent of our total awareness, if that. When they say you only use a certain percent of your brain, that's kind of what they mean. It's the mind, not the brain, it's the mind. But the brain is a physical representation of how we're using, how harmonized our mind is. Is the lower mind harmonized with the super mind, with the middle mind? So when it looks like the ascension framework, now there's lots of different schools of thought about this. There are some, this is what's interesting about how we all channel, right? We are all channels. We're all channels in our own right, because that's what we do. We are channeling our source energy into us every single day, moving it through our physical body. But that also means that truth is only subjective to the individual. It's not objective. There's not one truth for everyone. Every single human on this planet has a unique truth. No two beings will have the same truth. Similar, yes, but not the same. Because your experiences and your point of focus is what determines that. So when we hear people share and speak, and when we read books and things like that, really feel into if that is true for you, because it might be in that moment in time, but in 5 years' time, it might not be. In 5 years before that, it wouldn't have been. Because every moment of every second of every day is a different moment in time, a different point of focus, a different awareness, a different level of unification of your higher self, of your superconscious mind and your human mind, right? So the ego likes to identify. It needs that to survive and to live. It identifies. That's what the ego needs. It identifies with a name, with a label, with a title, with a profile, with a box. Higher self doesn't do that, because the higher self is connected to source. It's part of the all, right? But the lower self needs that. So it's the lower self part of us which actually identifies with certain things that are going on in the world. A process or a 3D or 5D, those terminologies are of the lower mind, right? In its very definition. And that's not meaning to cause charge or to cause emotion or triggering, but that's just a definition of things. Like terminologies can be helpful to help us focus. But once we understand the nature of the term, allow the structure to then relax so you can form your own truth. So when people use terms like 3D, 5D, that's the conscious mind coming up with that, because it needs a way to categorize and make linear, so make logical what it's experiencing here on Earth. See, this is a fun one to go into, isn't it? It's a big one. But oftentimes what happens when we talk about stuff like this is a lot of emotion arises, because what happens in its very nature when someone goes against the grain, or when someone kind of says something that's a little bit different to what a general consensus is, it triggers our ego, because our ego that we fed for so long with time and energy and absorbing, information, this and this, it goes, wait, I feel threatened now. What if they're going to stop believing this, and then this part of me might die? The ego is saying that. So it's up to you if you feel like you are part of a space and a place that needs to do a certain thing or be a certain way to fit into a certain framework. And that might be helpful and nourishing for you where you're at right now. But also, what is that ascension framework? People talk about it for sure. But is that your framework? Because everyone's going to have a different truth on that. What's your truth? Because your truth could be something as simple as when you realize the presence in the now, when you connect with the heart, all of time stands still. Everything is right now. That means every moment in time of yourself and of the world is right now, including the ascension. It's not linear, it's right now, it's here. But are you vibrating to match that? Just like an ultraviolet ray of light, we can't see it with our physical eyes, we're vibrating too slowly. We have to use different color glasses or or a tool or something to be able to see that. Dogs, they can hear very high pitched frequency. They're tuned in slightly different to us. We can't necessarily interpret that and identify that in the same way a dog or a canine can. Doesn't mean to say it doesn't exist, it just means that they're tuned into that, we're not, right? So it's just about how we're tuning in. And yes, it's a big topic and one that we could talk for hours and hours and hours on, but just to kind of start to wrap it up here. The way that we create and the way that we expand for our soul, the way that we nourish our soul and expand that, is by allowing ourselves to self-observe, to release in the lower emotions and the things that trigger us, releasing those feelings, completing, letting the emotions complete, feel witnessed, release, to create space for more light. Right? Humanity always needs a belief to follow because that's what keeps us physical as well. If we weren't physical, we'd just still be non-physical, right? And, so what train of thought, what school of thought helps you feel nourished, yet not just comfortable? Yeah, you can stay comfortable if you want, but you're gonna grow anyway. Your soul is craving to grow. Your higher self is taking you forward because that's what you're constantly asking for every time that there is a challenge, a contrast, an obstacle, or a block. Inevitably, we grow and expand. So we can only stay comfortable for so long. So if you're watching this and you're kind of going, I feel like I need to kind of find a new definition for the physical world or how I interpret the physical world. Good. Because if you do subscribe to the school of thought that we are in an ascension process of linear time, then this is a natural part of it anyway. Because to embody living love, to embody unconditional love, or what some call fifth dimensional living, the terms aren't really of importance in that way. It's just a way to help us understand where we're at and help us see ourselves and know ourselves. Because if we look at the intention behind those words, it's helping everyone know who they are, right? So if we really want to embody that, then this is a natural progression of thoughts anyway, is to question things without feeling unsettled or unsafe. We're always safe because we're source energy. So if we really are a holographic nature, like a holographic universe, an illusion in that sense, then that's great because we know what we're doing, clearly. And we're just playing and experimenting here, and we don't have to take anything too seriously if it's just holographic, right? That's a great thing. We can relax in that knowing and feel safe as we continue to expand and mirror love to everyone and compassion and understanding, right? So I know a really big topic. It's a really great question. We could probably go into that for at least double, triple, quadruple the time that we have done already, but to kind of hone it in and bring it back to base. You're love. That's what you are at your very core, right? Even if everything else was an illusion, you've created that from a core of love, which actually means that there is nothing other than love expressing and creating and experimenting in this world. Right? So I hope that answered the question to the dear soul who wrote that. And if you have any questions, please feel welcome to leave them in the comments, or I'll pop an email through on my website on the contact form. And yeah, it's always a lot of fun to share what I'm getting, what my team of light are getting. And I love reading your comments as well. So I wonder how you experience